All right, guys, we made it to the end of the year. This is our official final episode of the 419.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we made it. Hey, I have to acknowledge and thank our sponsors, of course, Wetro Wealth Management and now WorkSpring. And we're so excited. We have them actually at the table, at the podcast table with us today. So, in person, thank you to both of you. I'll start with Tim and Wes with Wetro. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this all year.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed working with you guys. Having a good time working with you. Yeah.
Just how I wrote it.
And then, Megan, this is your first time on the microphone with us,
yes.
but welcome to the 419.
Thank you.
And welcome to WorkSpring. You started as the Employers Association.
We did.
And now let's just take a minute and talk about that new name.
Okay, well, we launched our new name, WorkSpring, on November 7th, along with our new website and member portal. So it was a really big day for us. The Employers Association's been around since 1950. We started out as the Northwestern Ohio Industrial Council and eventually became the Employers Association.
I'm learning this for the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
That's part of the reason why we rebranded. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we spent some time over the last year with our wonderful marketing firm, Everwild, and they helped me and our team come up with a new name. And WorkSpring represents what we are all about. And we help our members with all things related to work and people. And we also specialize in workplace wellness. And so spring kind of connotes a new beginning. So we're excited to be WorkSpring.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you here. We're doing something a little different with this episode.
We have talent, which is new.
That's right. We have not done that all year. So
Kevin
thank you guys.
never wears this much blue.
You know what?
He
You
never
should,
wears a
know
belt.
it's-
I don't
yeah.
even, it's so
This is a
fancy in
big,
here
yeah.
today.
How about it?
I have to go to an event after this.
Oh,
Is it a
that's why.
hoedown?
And a hoedown. That's right.
Love it.
Man,
So
I,
good.
I love getting criticized by what I'm
This is not a
wearing.
visual medium.
No.
But I do want people to know
That's
that
why
you
we're
couldn't
successful
possibly
at it.
be wearing more blue. That's right.
I just appreciate that the guy in a like hooded sweatshirt, a baseball cap, is
That's
going
right.
to tell me what I'm wearing.
You know what's right.
If Tim wants to criticize my apparel, I will take it all
First of all,
day,
these are
every
Tim's
day.
clothes that I'm wearing. So,
You look very good.
yeah, thank you.
It's
yeah.
very bespoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. So that's really what he's wearing. And you didn't get it. That's
Yeah.
I dress like Matt, so I'm not saying a word
Yeah.
Okay.
about
That's
anybody's
perfect.
clothes.
Wise.
That's right. Nailed it, Wes.
So, Gretchen, why don't you explain a little bit to
your purpose here.
well, we don't have time for that. Gretchen, can you explain a little bit about what we're doing with
Yes.
this particular episode?
Yes, I would love to. This is sort of reminiscent of, your favorite television show, if you are my age or Matt's age, in the 80s and 90s, where there'd be one episode a
not
year where
maybe.
they would just sort of recap everything, or it'd be sort of a flashback episode. It's basically just a way for us to look back at the year.
Yeah.
We've asked each of our wonderful guests, and each of us have picked what we believe is our favorite sort of clip of the year, episode of the year, and we're just going to sort of go through and talk about that with everyone.
So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
And we will do our guests first.
Okay.
So, we've had, at this point, we have had 23 other episodes for you to attempt to find something that
of
might
value. Yeah.
that might qualify as a best.
And we did apologize to them for having to listen to all the episodes
Well,
in advance.
I mean, my wife and your mother have not listened
No.
to every episode,
No.
so we should make them get together and just lock them in a room and listen
Yeah.
to all of them. That's not going to go over well. All right, so as you've reflected on the year, is there a moment or an episode or a section that stands out to you, Tim?
There was a couple of them, but we were talking about it earlier about it's Pat Bowe, the CEO of Anderson's, and very interesting to hear his life story and how he ended up here. And the best part was he says he's going to stay here because he's now retired. And that's really exciting because he talked about his house, talked about his kids, and how they're all going to come back, and very interesting. And we do have a lot to offer here, and we didn't get hurricanes either. So
That's right.
there's a lot of good things
Sure.
here, and I was very impressed with all that. And listen to him when he was playing football. He made one comment that just stuck with me. That was, there's always someone better.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of, when you're listening to him going, okay, are you going to go pro or what are we going to do here? And I thought that was very interesting, and it really made me think. Because at first I go, no, we always strive to be the best.
Right.
In with my work, I'm always wanting to be the best and everything. But I sat back and I thought, wow, he's right.
And that
There is
sort
always
of,
someone better.
I really love that episode and was so appreciative that Pat came and did that episode with us. He was Kevin's guest. But in terms of like, there's always someone better, he struck me as someone in his position.
Right.
In his caliber of education and just the company that he's running with such a little, what seemed to us at least to be such a small ego for someone in that position, right? Acknowledging his team, recognizing the people he worked with. He just struck me as a really great guy.
He was also the first person, I think, that I did not know.
Yeah.
Certainly well. And he's a giant human being. So he comes around the corner and I was like, Jesus Christ.
You guys have mentioned that. He's a big guy.
Yeah, not only was he intimidating, it was like Pat Bowe. I was like, goddamn Pat Bowe. And I think the guests prior were kind of like our buddies, if you will. And Pat Bowe sat in the chair and I was adjacent to him and his legs were like wrapped around my stool and I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to say to this guy? You like your office, Mr. Bowe? I was like, just shut up, you idiot. I'm like, that's right. That's about right.
Despite your discomfort being straddled by Pat, you
Your words.
actually
Yikes.
asked. That's true. Maybe you were comfortable.
Yeah.
You actually asked a really good question that I think, in hindsight, for the year of what played out the rest of the year, worked out to be pretty well. So let's go back and revisit just a moment from our episode with Pat Bowe.
If there were a couple words that you want people to remember your legacy of running the company, what would they be?
Boy, that's a good question.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, a couple words is hard. One is growth. I mean, so when I came, we've gone from revenues of $3 billion to $17 billion in the last 7 years. So big growth. We created
Julie
value.
Payaf
Yeah,
tomorrow.
check Julie. And our earnings has grown. That we made a big acquisition in Kansas City, a big company called Lansing Trade Group. We sold some businesses too. So we did a lot of change. So I think one of the things I was kind of a change agent. And one thing we needed to do, we were a very stable company. We needed to run a little faster.
Yeah.
And we needed to exercise our muscles a little bit more. And we've done it, whether it be safety or engagement or working with customers, we needed to bring in some external talent too to drive the wheel, the classic flywheel. And so I think that's, more about change and longevity. We want to build this up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just have this little chapter. So it's been 8 years in the company. I hope people say, oh, that was a pretty good chapter.
Right.
It was an interesting read.
Look,
Yeah.
Well, so you talked a little bit about the things you like about Toledo, the things that you brag about with other people. I'm curious what you want to see next. What's the thing
The
you
thing
want?
we're passionate about, my wife and I, is early childhood education and feeding children. So when I read all the statistics about Toledo and fail to thrive and people that are hungry going to school, it just tears at my heart, right? And so we're trying to get involved in that. The problem is there's 5,000 answers for that,
Yes,
and
sir.
there's not one simple one, and it takes a lot of it. So I think, for me, feels like if enough of us lean into it in a town like this size, we could fix it.
Yeah.
We could move the needle.
See, great guy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so Megan, we're going to turn to you.
How have
now,
you fixed this? You've had a full year.
Yes.
Also, Gretchen, thank you for letting me hold the headphones up for you the entire time.
No problem.
well, this is the most people we've ever had in here
Yeah.
in one time. And so I tried to get headphones for everybody. And Matt still refuses to wear the headphones I got for him.
Well-
But he's going to claim that he's sharing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please bail us out, man.
Yeah. All right. So Megan, as
Yes.
you went back and listened to these episodes or throughout the year, is there a moment that stood out for you?
I really enjoyed listening to Erica White's interview. She is a fabulous human being.
Yeah, no kidding.
New state rep, so
Just
that's super
elected,
exciting.
right?
Very,
Yeah.
very, very happy
Thanks
for
to
her.
this show, her
thank-
words.
100%. And so I listened to Erica's story, and like all of you and all of your many, many listeners, she's inspirational. And I enjoyed hearing about her work on behalf of workers, her thoughts on public education, and her passion for community and what's going on here in Toledo.
So let's go back and relive a moment with Erica White.
I remember my first trip downtown, and I remember I thought downtown was magical. I went in 6th grade. Can you remember? We took a field trip downtown Toledo.
Yeah.
And this is funny when I think about this
Yeah.
now.
Where did you
because
go?
So I went to Reynolds Elementary School.
No, but I mean, where would the field trip go?
We were downtown, or I don't know, Huron or whatever it is down there, and they were giving out
Are
these.
you sure it was a field trip where you just abducted?
No, we were actually.
Were there other kids with you? Was there a bus?
There was actually a bus,
right.
and they gave out these. They gave out these whisper candy bars. I thought downtown was magical, where they gave out candy bars, and people yelled out to me. Well, and I got older, I was like, "This ain't magical. This was wrong."
Have you all been to Pinewood Place?
Pinewood Place Apartments.
Now that's magic.
That's
Magical.
Right. Yeah.
But I just remember that, and but then I remember when there was nothing down here, and I had to actually, if you got your lunch at home downtown, you were just done.
Yeah.
That's right.
It was nothing.
There was nothing.
Nothing.
You
Yeah.
cannot go back home. You were just that. And then I remember they built the McDonald's, and we would go there sometimes. And then when they built the subway downtown, and it was awesome. Except every year there was a Jehovah Witness convention.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get in the subway.
Yeah.
And you forgot your lunch.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, dang.
That's right.
And you'd be done. But
Well, now I don't believe in one faith for sure.
all right. But to see this happen and see it build out, it's been amazing to see Toledo grab back a hold and change things around. And so even though I don't think people remember that, but seeing that from like where I started, like right there,
Sure.
and seeing from being 19 years old and starting and seeing it like completely evolve, where we were surrounded by strip clubs and people were like, "Are you coming in? Coming in where?"
Yeah.
I was like, I have a job.
Yeah.
I work at Pinewood Place Apartments.
That's
I was
right.
like,
I'm not sure if you know where I'm from,
Yeah,
sir.
sir. I never doesn't look like I would go there. But you get to see the economic part. That's also like the other part of workers, and it
Yeah.
builds out our community, and it's important. And so I think Toledo. I'm excited by where we still have to go. And I still think when you talk about the economic stronghold of this part of the state, when you talk about what Toledo does for Lucas County and Northwest Ohio, it is so significant. It brings up everything around us. So it's something we can't lose. We just have to keep fighting for it. And I just hope that we don't fight each other, that we turn in and fight together.
Right.
And that's something I feel that we used to do really well together.
That was a great show.
There's so many moments of this podcast over the last year that I'm like, when we had this plan and started walking into this, I don't know that I expected, as authentic and real as the conversations got, because we weren't able to prepare. I didn't think about that. The other thing is being able to see Toledo through other people's eyes. Because I don't know that I sit down and really have a 60-minute conversation with many people
Right.
on a regular basis. And so to be able to do that and ask questions, I mean, I've known of Erica, but I don't know that her and I have ever probably spent more than 3 minutes
Or in
talking to each
passing,
other.
certainly, right.
Yeah. And so to be able to hear what Toledo was like to her, and to be able to hear what it looks like for her now and where her drive comes from. And we've had that throughout all of our guests. It's been really cool to see that.
And just like with Pat, I mean, it's such a genuine motivation, right? It's about passion for their work, passion for their company, passion for the city of Toledo. What Erica was talking about just prior to that section we listened to is that she was a communication worker, and she started working at that AT&T office right there on that corner of Monroe Street, a heck of a long time ago. And so I'm so excited that she was elected.
Yeah.
And I think she's going to be a real asset to our area.
Yeah, but I think you also get to learn like your own guests. Right? I have had obviously a handful of my guests on, and people I know, and the more they talk, I'm like, oh, I had no idea, right? So I don't know if that's a testament to how little or more we engage as people, and perhaps it's easy to say, that we are no longer connected. I don't know if that's true comparatively, but it was certainly made more obvious to me that I don't spend enough time cultivating the relationships of the guests who I would describe, most of them as friends. Some of them not. I'm not going to tell you which ones it was.
No, don't.
I
John
do
Amato.
remember John Amato
Yeah.
saying he went to Notre Dame, and you were just like,
Well, I don't know that that's true today. Still, I think that's a lie. I mean, he did say it, but I say a lot of
But
things.
we didn't see any documentation.
Yeah, I mean, he could come in here and just say anything. I've never seen Pat Bowe at the Andersons. So
he did work there.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so he said,
Okay, good. That's fair.
yeah, it's
All
a
right.
small building. That guy's giant.
How does he fit in the door?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Megan, thank you for
Yeah.
choosing that episode and coming back and joining us for this. We appreciate it. All right. Who wants to go next?
Gretchen.
Okay, I'll go.
Maybe you should use a microphone.
Oh,
Nope.
okay, I'll go.
I start today.
Wait, does Wes have one?
Yes.
Let's do Wes first.
Hell yeah. All right, Wes.
There you go. See
And I'll
how
make it.
generous-
I'm going to make it real easy for you
Okay.
because I'm going to make it about you guys.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
We all love that.
Yeah.
When we went to the
Yeah.
live event
Yeah.
at the Metro Parks building.
What a dump.
First of all, you couldn't have. The planets aligned for you. It was beautiful that night.
Yeah.
It was perfect. You had the perfect guests for that venue, and from my world, the things that have intrigued me since I was a teenager come from maybe a little more chaotic version of community building,
Sure.
but like being kind of a punk rock kid.
Yeah.
Community building is a part of that.
Absolutely.
And when you live in an area like this, Toledo is a big, small town in a lot of aspects. Like, we aren't Detroit, we're not Buffalo, we're not Cleveland, we're not Pittsburgh. We're smaller, and people know each other more so than you would in those major cities. And so sitting there with someone like Chris Peterson, who's been a part of this community, been in people's living rooms.
That's right.
For years. Right. So, like, to the point where, like, I remember as a kid, and this is a little off topic, but I remember as a kid going to the mall and you would see like Diane Larson or one of
Yeah.
those, and you'd be like, oh my God.
Big doings. Yeah.
I can't believe they're here. Like, yeah, they're at the mall. Like, you dummy. They live in the same
Sure. Yeah.
town you
They
live
need
in.
clothes. Yeah.
Who'd have thought
Yeah,
that they have to buy
amazing.
their own?
That's right.
But hearing her speak about like how much she cared about that job and being a voice
Yeah.
for the community, but then also knowing at a certain point where like her life was more important, her child, her
Yeah.
family, those things, like work no longer became more important than her values. And that to me is an example. That's kind of what exemplifies what you guys have done with the show, because it's somebody who had a big platform, right? But still had all of her core ethics intact. She still is out there community building. She's still a part of organizations that are putting
Absolutely.
good into Toledo. It's just that she's not in front of a camera doing it now. And shows like that, like doing it in a live setting where there's other people from the community there, it's kind of a reminder of like, there's people in your community doing good.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you hear on the news or what you read on whatever social media platform, there's a lot of good people in this community doing good stuff
Absolutely.
for Toledo. And so that one to me, like going there, we walked away from that like this is great. What you guys did there was great, and I hope you do more of that.
I did not expect the live shows to be as popular as they were. When we had the very first one, it was like, well, it's going to be the three of us.
Right.
That's why we invited Dominic along, was like, just so there's somebody else there.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's going to be like one person. We got this.
I remember I walked that first one we had with Mayor Kapsakevich and Rhonda Sewell, and we were at Toll House.
Yep.
And I was in trial that week, I think, but I was there a little bit late, and I walked into the room, and no one was in there. Like, it was the two of you bozos in there and no one else. And I was like, oh my God, what? And it turns out that
Like your birthday party.
the bartender was in the front. And so then we said, all right, everyone come back. And then like 25 people came back. And it was just, it's wonderful, I think, that
I
people
just want to
come
remind
those.
everyone that the two of you bitched about how much I talked during that show.
Well,
We didn't, the
that's-
audience did.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
There's an important distinction there.
That's right.
it is not often that I hear the word audience to mean single person.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think that's what Gretchen meant there.
It's
Got it.
been 11 and a half months. I think you
Yeah.
can get
Yep. No.
over that.
No, I won't. Yeah.
Okay.
Not frequently do your friends and partners give you notes on your performance, but you guys have, and I'm the better for it. So thank you so
Anyway,
much.
Wes, thank you for mentioning the live show. We are going to keep doing those. Our next one is January 13th. We'll be posting something about
But
it on our
Wes
social media.
did hit the core tenet of the show, right? Hearing us three chortle on is not why people like it. And a lot of people do like it. It's because there's enough garbage out there, and it's not difficult to find negativity through the ether. But there is so much stuff going on that's positive here. And back to our friends who we think we know so well, sometimes we're reminded how much good they're actually doing. And everybody needs a little wind in their sails, right? Indiscriminate of how big your year is, a rebrand and a refreshing of an institution that gives lends real help and real support to institutions. You have bad days, right? And you need to be reminded that Chris Peterson also has kids and has crappy days and gives a shit about this community, right?
Yes.
And we're a collection of all these things. So it's a core tenet of the show, and I think that's what people have wrapped their heads around.
Agreed.
So let's go relive a moment of that live episode with Chris Peterson and her
called a
daughter
transition.
Riley.
One of the things you've worked on for such a long period of time, obviously, is Susan G. Komen. And our connection started many, many, many years ago with a person that we knew that had cancer. So what's the status now? What are
I'm
you
just
still
going to say the other Gretchen.
The other Gretchen,
Right?
the other
We were
Gretchen.
Gretchen squared. yeah.
And so so you're still, what do you, I know obviously you still do the race, and they've moved nationally, right? So there's not as much board presence here, but still
Yeah, we
organizational
still have a
presence.
local board here for our affiliate, but they did move kind of the administration and funding to a national place. We do get our money back that we raise, but it's just a different and more cost-effective way for them to run things. But 30 years is my, last year was my 30th race.
Wow.
I've been there since the very beginning, and it is just something, when you look at events, there aren't that many that go that long.
No kidding.
And ours is one of, I think it's the second longest maybe in the country or something.
That's incredible.
And we do a lot better here than a lot of bigger cities. We normally have more people than Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit. Our race is awesome. And I love that. I love that people have gotten behind it. I look forward to seeing people there every
And they
year.
look forward to seeing her.
She
She is a fixture
We have a
of
big
that
hug
race.
fest.
pink
Yeah.
boa.
The pink,
Yes.
yes, the
Yes.
pink boa, and she can never get away because it's always a line of people coming up to talk to
I
her.
bet.
But she loves it.
Yeah.
How did that start? Was that your idea? Was that the station's idea?
No, actually at the time, the gals at Flower Hospital brought it. They were just starting to put the cancer center in over there, and they thought that it would be a good connection for them. So they took the initiative to, kind of start the race. It was just a committee at the beginning. So we ran the race for about 5 or 6 years just as a committee, and then got a board together and started being a little bit more official about it. But the very first race was at Franklin Park Mall, and it was only women. And there were 1,200 people there, 600 people there at that very first race. And there was a man named Ken Post. He has passed away since, but his wife had passed away from breast cancer, and he had 2 little kids. He was raising them as a single dad. And he said, I really want to be part of this race too. My wife died. I mean, this is important to our family. And the next year, it was open to men and women, and ever since, for several years, they're doubled. We went from 600 to 1,200 to 2,500 to 5,000, and then, we just kept increasing it little by little there. But it's been just an amazing journey of growth, and to be able to see all of the people. And because my job was so visible at WTOL, I would get a lot of phone calls, like so-and-so was just diagnosed, they don't know who to call. It made me feel so great to know that there's help out there, and not just help with your medical bills, but if you need a babysitter so you can go to chemo for 8 hours, or if you need help paying your electrical bills because you're, spending extra money on medicine and, treatment, then they're able to help with that. And I know that it works, and I know people here are alive because of it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. At the risk of putting you on the spot, is there a characteristic or a trait of your mom's that you're particularly envious of, try to emulate, wish you're more like? Answer the question, Riley.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's just so many. I'm trying to filter through all of them. No, I would say, honestly, her bravery. I think my mom is a really brave person. She has always taught me, I mean, the kindness, obviously, but that's a cop-out because she already said that about me. So, but no, she's always been extremely brave. She puts herself out there in
Absolutely.
ways that might make people uncomfortable, especially if you're a little more introverted. Like,
Sure.
I do struggle with anxiety, and I'm very socially extroverted, but I do find sometimes I kind of want to retreat back in my shell, or like, even coming on the podcast, if I wasn't doing it with my mom, I might be a lot more nervous than I am right now.
Okay.
But she's just always brave. She just jumps headfirst into everything she does. She, for her classes even, she travels alone. She does it all by herself. She trains for all sorts of new things that she's interested in. I admire how she always puts herself out there and is so extroverted.
That was a great clip.
Yeah, thank you, Wes.
Hey, glad to provide. Yeah.
All right, Gretchen.
All right.
You're up.
Okay, so it was hard to choose. And unlike my co-host Matt, who doesn't listen to any of the episodes, I listen to all of them. Mostly, again, to give him notes, because he wants them.
So helpful.
But I picked the episode with John Jones. I just thought that...
Jan?
Jan.
Yeah.
I just thought that it was silly.
Yeah.
We would jokingly refer to him as Tom Cole, because that was someone we were going to guess was him. There were bow tie jokes. We were making fun of him for being a minister's kid, but then we really got down to brass tacks, and we're talking about Hope Toledo and the work he's doing, and the specific sort of quality that he has, that he brings to the community that I'm not sure a lot of people know about. So,
John, you and I, you won't remember this. We were in the same room together when you were being called to do what I'm about to make mention of. You made mention earlier about coming in between a teacher and a student. If it's your grandmother, your father, your siblings, or just your DNA, what makes you a great mediator?
Wow.
Because you certainly are. And I won't say what the issue was that you were coming to navigate through, but it was pretty tough.
Were you in that room?
Well, you're not. It could be. You do this a lot, but it was. You were not coming to the aid of the institution that went left or right of center. You were coming to the aid of the community that needed to have everyone be in the same gymnasium. And you were being called a bit to the mattresses to say, why would you even do that? And your comment was, I'm not doing that for the institution. I'm doing that for the kids that are involved in the community. So, again, I don't think that's specific enough, because you do this with some real regularity, regrettably. But what does make you a good mediator? You're a man of flesh and blood. I'm sure you wouldn't describe yourself as a saint, but
No one would.
Not at all. No, nobody would.
Yeah. So when
Especially these three.
when you
Not at the pace this is going.
yeah,
Not at
so
all.
what taught
But
me
Tom Cole,
Yeah.
absolute
right.
saint.
Yeah, he would. Right,
See?
right.
the
Tom
joke
Cole.
works.
It works, doesn't it?
But
I
talk to me
think
about
Jones and Cole mediation is the new.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
like
Let's
it.
go.
The
or
new
Cole and
company.
Cole.
Let's go.
Can you? No, because everyone thinks he's Tom Cole anyway.
No, I got it.
I would. I
It's
would
just so
say.
funny.
I would say this. If there's anything, because I don't necessarily see myself in that space,
Sure,
but
that's probably why.
hearing as you,
I genuinely think that.
I think what I've tried to do, and I've had a couple people say this, even in this space, because you were in that room when we were first doing this work around Hope Toledo. So you're bringing community-based providers who have been burned for years, folks haven't treated them right, so on and so forth. What I think I try to do most is to listen. What's going on? How are you dealing with it? What's your thought? And then actually trying to have an open enough mind to say, I may vehemently disagree with you, but I still want to listen to you. And I think that means, what that says to people is, okay, I can at least say what I need to say. He may not agree, but at least he's going to listen to me, and who knows where that goes. And what that means is that there's value. And so I believe, because I've done this several different times, I remember a group of people I went to, they were getting beat up, torn up throughout from institutional spaces. And I went to that group and I said, let's talk. Talk to me. What are you dealing with? And they still come to me now and they say, I'm really surprised that you came in and you listened to us, because nobody was listening to us. And I believe it can be somebody who is absolutely wrong, but if you take a moment to listen to them, not validate what they said because it's wrong, not do any of that, not take their side, but actually listen to them. What it does is it brings the temperature down. Because Dr. King used to say, that violence is the language of the unheard. And so when people act out, it's because they haven't been heard. That's why a little kid acts out at 3 years old. That's why college kids act out. And that's why grown folks are acting out right now all across this country, because they're not heard. And doesn't mean you agree, because I'll tell you in a minute, I disagree with you, but I at least listen to you. And so now it's not that I disagree just out of hand and just said, I don't like Kevin, so I'm not going to listen to anything that he says. No, I want to listen to him. And I've found that it just might be that there's something Kevin said that actually had some truth tied to it, and some merit tied to it. So now I can actually shift a little bit of my own thinking.
There's an in-between to be found.
That's a valuable gift. That's a real asset.
And it's hard. It's hard to do. I appreciate it significantly.
I don't know how I feel that during John talking about me saying things that nobody would agree with, Tim was violently shaking his head in agreement.
Well, I think that John just used the most obvious example, and then Tim could see the merit in it. That's probably what happened.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
And John's a man of God. So.
Have you guys, I'm assuming, Megan, you've got a chance to work with and get to know John.
Oh my gosh, yeah. John is wonderful. I've known John for many, many years, and his Hope Toledo work is, again, I mean, all of the folks that we've been talking about today, there's a common theme about helping each other, lifting people up. And, you know, if there's one area in our community that absolutely needs a bright light shined on it, and that it's pre-K and his work. I mean, literally, I think the future of our children rest on what we do here.
And think of the people he has to listen to in those spaces, right?
Absolutely.
The politics, the economics, the territorialism. I mean, the kind of leadership and stamina and ability to be in those rooms is unprecedented, the skill set he needs for that.
To be able to have such a clear vision on what the future can and could and should look like, that you don't panic about what the present looks like, right? When somebody's in your face and disagreeing with you and they're upset and you're like, nope, I'm fighting a war. I'm not worried about this battle. That takes a lot of patience. And so this has been, again, another one of those like fun gifts from this is I've known John for a long time. We are fellow bow tie fanatics. And so we share that in common. But it's,
and that's where the similarities are.
That's pretty much.
He's a visionary and he's standing up for the community. And he also wears bow ties like Kevin.
Well, that's why I wear bow ties, so that I get compared to John Jones.
I love it.
I'll take it any way I can get it. All right, let me go. I'm going to go next because we're going to save, Matt, we'll save yours for last.
For sure.
Because I think you would assume that that yours is indeed the best.
I do assume that.
Okay, that's a scary thought.
You know what assuming is.
So Matt, you had
That's
talked
the
about
joke.
talked about having guests on that you didn't know before,
That's right.
and so one of my favorite episodes, one of my favorite conversations was someone that I'd never met before.
All right.
And that was your friend Imam Deep.
Yes.
Cool.
And there were so many cool moments in that conversation.
Yeah,
One of them
when
that
he
stood,
left.
That's right. No, one that stood out to me was we talked about being called to a vocation.
Yeah.
And I've always grown up thinking of that as like priests are called to their vocation, but I never thought about like Gretchen, you, I, Tim, Wes, Megan, us being called to our vocations.
Sure.
And so that was an interesting moment to me. And so I really enjoyed that piece. But there was something else he said that I don't know that I've ever heard it said quite this way. When I talked about finding similarities, finding
Yes.
common ground.
Damn, this was going to be mine.
His
This is good.
His reaction to
Yes,
that
absolutely.
was really cool.
I share a slightly different perspective. And that perspective is that I think we can, as Americans especially, I think we can get into the habit of almost exclusively focusing on commonalities because we're afraid to talk about differences. And I think a lot of our actually challenges in America is because there's almost an implicit subconscious deflection. You're not doing that. And I agreed with everything you said. But I've noticed that growing up in our culture, it's like, don't talk about race, it'll just go away. And what that does, especially for young people growing up, it shows them that difference is,
Taboo.
Don't talk
taboo.
about it, right.
And so
Yeah.
then you'll have the other extreme, which
That's right.
I think we're witnessing now, which is every difference matters.
Yeah.
And, there's no like, the idea of personal truths. Like, I'm sure we all grew up with that concept. Like, we come from different contexts. We value things differently. But the idea that everything that is true only depends on whether you said it or not. There's no like objective metric of analysis. So that's the other extreme. And for me, it's like,
Or if you believe it or not.
or if you believe it or
I mean,
not.
like
You personally believe it.
implicit
Exactly.
data,
Yeah.
right, isn't true if you don't choose to believe it. Is kind of where we
Yes.
are now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And careening more so,
Right.
yes.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's different than faith, but I take your point.
No, but
Yeah.
to your point, I think it's similar in that. So you talked about language, which is essential because when people say I have faith or don't have faith, or have religion or I don't have religion, and in my field now you have the rising popularity of I'm spiritual but not religious.
Yes.
What we don't realize, and I think this is what you're getting at, they're actually all saying very similar things, but because, and this is where my perspective is, because we don't have a culture, or we've maybe lost a culture of saying, okay, no, what do you mean by religion? And okay, that's interesting. Here's what I mean by religion, and let's debate it out. Let's have some civil discourse.
He might be one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Yeah. Well, that's not a high bar.
Well, that's true.
No offense to our guests.
I mean,
Yeah.
Matt, you don't realize how much of an insult that is to you.
Shit.
He's too
No, I'm hearing
stupid
it.
to
I'm
know.
hearing it now.
Unrelated to the content, he has the best voice for like public speaking and right. It's so soothing. Like
microphone voice.
Yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
There was a moment in that episode where Matt proceeded to compliment almost every inch of his body top down.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable for him. But his almondy eyes, I mean, I'm reliving it.
we're gonna do it again.
I'm reliving it right now. Yeah. I was like,
see like a
I'd like
thought
to
bubble
celebrate
over
your
your head.
differences right now. And that's when, he left.
Yeah.
We had some really interesting conversations this year with several different faith leaders, even people that don't present themselves as faith leaders about their faith. And I don't think any one of us is overly or really religious at all. I found that interesting to those conversations with a number of different people.
I think how people consume the podcast. I think Sam Meldon, who is at best a friend, our words, may mention the fact he's like, I look at every one of your episodes. He's like, this is the first one. I was like, I'm really interested to hear what that person says. And that did sort of refocus my thoughts on who I wanted to have as guests, right? I can't necessarily, none of us have an agenda here, right? This isn't a show for those purposes, and we don't have agendas. We don't have the intellectual fortitude to have strategy. But it was like, okay, now who is the voice that I think that might want to be heard by people who haven't heard them yet, right? And I don't hope that doesn't sound self-aggrandizing. It was just like, I loved the Imam when I met him right off the rip. All kidding aside, I was moved by him. We certainly don't share the same faith, but we do share the same core tenets, Wes, as you were articulating earlier, as I know you prescribe everything you do, so I'm proud to be your friend. So having him on and having Sam say that, I was like, all right, this shit does sort of matter, right? And this isn't, a Emmy Award-winning show, and we don't have.
Wait, we can get nominated for Emmys?
We don't even talk to the microphones. But there are messages here.
You are not going to get nominated.
There
for
are
an Emmy.
messages here that people are interested in, and we do get to be the convener of those stories to ears, right? So that did make me think about who my next guest would be in a slightly different light. I'm glad you picked that, although I'm a little upset because that was one of mine. I was like, man, when he said that, I was like, that was a great point.
I had a close second that falls in a similar line with what you were talking about, and sort of the folks that may not be described as faith leaders, but we talked about their faith. And I was actually specifically told by this person that I could not choose this moment as my favorite moment of the year.
Interesting.
And it was Nicole Sussdorf would not let me relive her sharing with the world what she says when she stubs her toe. And she was not upset about having shared that.
Sure.
She was upset that we have not asked
Yes, right.
a single guest since then what
Right.
they say
Yeah.
when they stub their foot. So to date, she, 24
And
episodes
I'm sure
in,
she'll be pleased you're bringing it up right now.
1 year in. Yeah, well, bring it on.
That's right.
But 1 year in.
I promised her I wouldn't mention it again, and I won't.
I said I'm not going to play it again. I didn't say I'm not going to talk about it. That's joke's on her. I have a microphone.
Yeah.
But I think it's those kind of moments that are fun.
Yeah.
But it's somebody that I know really well. I learned some new things
Sure.
about them. But I think it's also learning about that faith side for her. There's
Yeah.
stories about her and how her husband met that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right.
Wonderful. Good choice.
We at some point in year 2. We are going to need you to use a microphone.
I'm trying.
I don't know. I don't think that's true. I think it's just going to be easier to get her off the show.
Well, okay.
Right.
And that's why Megan's here. So
I thought if I had just shouted, you'd be able to hear.
No, Megan does have a microphone and headphones and everything.
Is this an audition that I'm unaware of?
Yeah.
No.
It's not an audition.
Surprise.
That's right.
Oh
It's
my
a
goodness.
substitution. They do rhyme.
All right. Matt,
Yes. All right.
last but certainly not least.
I don't listen to the show, but that's because I can't stand the sound of my own voice.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's more feedback we've also received.
Yeah. Just teeing up for these two dopes. Yeah. Took them 24 shows to keep regurgitating that same joke. You're welcome for the downloads. But my person we actually had to have on twice because the first interview was such a disaster. And we didn't know what we were doing. Not that we have necessarily honed our skills, but it did not go great. So we had Mary Brucker on twice. So she's our first official and
Second official.
1A interview.
Yeah.
And we all know Mary fairly well. And she talked about a litany of things that were certainly of interest and might be news to others. And I know this lends itself to the silly, but we did find out in the midst of this conversation that Mary had an imaginary friend. And based on Mary's
Not
personality.
today, when she was younger.
Well,
Oh.
she may have left the door open.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
all
not the
right.
one door.
Okay.
So again, the fact that Mary's personality would have to lend itself to imaginary company, that's not the surprise. But it was what she chose as a narrative for this person's existence.
I didn't play with dolls. I had huge, big parties with all
Sure.
the people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we would charge fees.
Yeah,
for
good
them
way to make
come
friends.
in.
Wait, this is legit. Like, you're not saying like for pretend.
No, I'm not saying for
No,
pretend.
charging her friends to be on their own block is what she's saying.
Put on shows.
Yeah.
All right. So what was what's the first big event that you remember planning?
You mean as a child?
Yeah.
Birth.
I didn't
Sent out
plan that.
invitations.
I acted out Predator as a one person.
I vividly remember having a cat party when I would, and I remember my mom coming in, and I used to strap our cats in little high chairs. And the weird thing about me back then,
there goes
and I
our-
don't know,
okay.
I don't know if this if anybody else has this, but I used to have a lot of imaginary friends that I used to plan parties. As a matter of fact, I think I still do. I have a so yes.
Are they with us here now?
Tommy died in a fire, but
Your imaginary friend died?
yeah.
What a sad ass kid you are. Good Lord. Yeah.
So I used to have parties with my imaginary.
How long do these run? This is good, right?
I think we
With
made
your
it.
imaginary friends,
Did you
what was
plan
the attendance
Tommy's
at
funeral?
Solheim? She is so insane
Oh my
That
god.
and
is
hilarious.
Crazy,
But the,
right?
the behind the scenes thing after that was so funny
well, the
is
front
that
of the scenes.
yeah, the
thing
front of the
is
scenes
her
was funny.
imaginary friend
his
died in a
his
fire.
name was Tommy.
Yeah.
That he died in a house fire. But then we were like, Mary, you just have to be. You're messing with us. Like that can't possibly be
We
true.
tried to make it make sense.
We tried
Like, did
to
you
make
have
it
a
make
fire
sense,
at your
or we
house? Is
tried
this a
to-
way for you to
we had to let her
reconcile?
retract it.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you watching a lot of
Yeah.
Chicago Fire?
Right. Which I think she also was. But then she called. So she's like, I'll call my mom right now. So after the show, after we finished recording, the three of us are here. She calls her mother on speakerphone, and her sister happened to be at her mother's house. And we talked to her mother on the phone about this
For $2 a
this
minute.
Tommy that was her invisible friend, and that they saw a house fire. They're out and about one day, and they see a house fire, and somehow just the three of them concoct this whole thing that Tommy was in the fire. Oh no, Tommy died. And they had like this funeral, and then the mayor was all sad because Tommy died. I mean,
It was the
insane.
most bizarre thing the entire time.
They
My
all
mom-
seem still kind of down about it.
Yeah. They're like, she was real sad. I was like, yeah. I was like, this sounds like a really broken kid. Anyway, it was our first and second interview. It was a good entryway into some real wacky stuff that people allowed us entry into. It also allowed us to laugh sort of together, right? It allowed us to sort of ask, I think, as we've improved, ask a little bit better questions, right? The three of us interviewing Mary Brucker about Tommy unfortunately perishing in this imaginary fire was vastly different than communicating, navigating Hope Toledo and racial unrest, right? Or listening to the imam talk about us not being able to talk about differences and sundry other things were happening on the planet, right? But it was a good mix, as we talked about before, of wanting to highlight things and talk about serious things because the world is a serious place. But there's a lot of funny stuff too.
I think that was the sort of the point for us at the very beginning of this was let's be us and let's have conversations with people that we know, like, and respect, and share those stories with the community because, as Wes, as you talked about, it's not hard to find bad news.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not hard to find.
Just open your phone.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's there, right? But
Just open one of your boxes.
Yeah, we got to work a little bit harder to find the good stories.
That's right.
And there are so many of them in our community, and so many more yet for us to uncover.
That's right.
And so I think that's why we're super excited to be able to announce that we are officially coming back for year 2.
Mm-hmm.
The 419 is renewing, in large part because of the support of folks sitting around this table. So
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're doing this again.
I was hoping to tell you after.
Yeah.
Surprise.
That's right.
Hey, Tim, if you want to step out real quick, we're just going to talk to Wes. Is there anything, as you guys kind of reflect on the year, let me give you guys a chance for, in the world of Jerry Springer, this is your time for final thoughts.
I think we should have one where the three of us sit here and we talk to you guys. We know nothing about you.
You're welcome.
And maybe you want to keep it that way. But
Yeah.
I like it.
I think you guys should try and get Tommy's parents on.
Yeah.
See how they've
Yeah.
coped
They've never
since
recovered,
Tommy's
Wes. They still can't
unfortunate
talk
death.
about it today. That's good. It's almost like it never happened.
I mean, I would feel bad for them if they left the house and left little Tommy alone
Yep.
when the fire happened.
gosh.
Poor Mary had to watch that all go down.
Man.
That's right.
Too.
Yeah.
A lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a wild scenario.
Yeah, it's
to play out for
wild.
a child.
That is batshit.
That was really one of those moments when I was like, we might be onto something.
Yeah.
Because I know Mary well enough, but no one knows her well enough to know about Tommy.
That's right.
So, yeah. Megan, final thoughts as we wrap up year number 1?
Well, it's been a great year, and 2025. It's hard to believe it's here.
No kidding.
Practically, and I think it's going to be a great year. We've got some exciting things going on at WorkSpring, so we'll announce those in the first quarter, I think. And I think Toledo still has a lot to offer, and thank you so much for allowing WorkSpring to be part of this incredible podcast.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you to both of you for the support, Megan. We gotta have you on at some point in time in 2025 and learn a little bit more about you.
Sure, I'd love to.
We may or may not let the audience know a little bit more about us. We'll see. We'll see if the audience is clamoring for that. As we wind down the episode, Gretchen, any final thoughts?
Thank you to our listener. Thanks to our sponsors. And we'll be back. Hopefully continue some of this same nonsense. So we're excited.
I want to say thank you to you guys. I know that this was the thoughtfulness of this podcast was you and Matt. And, Matt and I had sort of talked about, maybe we should do something with a microphone sometime, but didn't really know what that would be. And so, I appreciate you guys kind of bringing me into this. Certainly for the folks that have taken the time to listen, to reach out and comment, to the folks that have nominated future guests. I'm especially interested in the ones that are not self-nominations. When someone says, hey, you should have this person on rather
Right.
than you should have me on.
Sure.
Although I appreciate That's right.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, like, this has become a platform that people want to be on.
Yeah.
That's not lost on me. That's not something that is a given. That's something that I think, I know how hard the three of us have worked to do this, and I think that's, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I don't have anything more eloquent to offer than that. The city or the region makes the show, and I'm proud to be a small part of it. So, and I'm grateful to the two of you. This has been a respite for me from life stressors. So I'm always excited to come here. The guests are great, but I'd come here and just sit in here with you if I had the opportunity.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks,
Awesome.
Kevin.
All right. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you to Tim Wheatro and Wheatro Wealth Management for their support of the podcast. Thank you to Megan and the team at WorkSpring for their support. And thanks to all of you for Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam. I'm Kevin Mullen. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and we will see you in 2025 with the 419.